Good afternoon, Morgan, and a pleasure to meet up with you again. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, John. Thank you.
Brilliant. So you've brought out a new album, Old Skin. How did the concept to create this come about?
I'm not too sure. I was just writing, and the idea of Old Skin came to me because I thought it was about time to reflect on my age and being comfortable in my skin. And I thought it would be nice to say, actually, maybe I'm the best I'm ever going to be, and now, the story of life is, when I have this, or when am I ready? When am I ready? When I was younger, when I was a punk, you're young, you have no voice, and when you're old, you have no voice. and I thought, well, I just want to speak up. That I like getting older. I like what it gives me. It takes things away. I'm not trying to hold on to the things that it takes away, and so I wanted to celebrate my skin and say thank you. I'm alive. People I know died. A lot of people I know that died over the years and didn't make it. So I need to value my life and say thank you to my old skin. Yes.
So was there specifically a number of tracks that you wanted to make in order to hold the project together?
No, not at all. No. I did think about a number of tracks. Maybe I could do more than Grains and Grams or less. Then I thought maybe 3 EPs, and then put 12 tracks together at the end of the year after the EPs had been released. Then I was, maybe I could try that in the future, but on this one I'm just going to kind of continue writing until it kind of makes sense to me. And that's kind of... So there was no real plan. It was just write something until it feels right.
You were grateful that I mentioned the album appeared genreless. Can you explain what that means to you?
It just means that that you picked up on the fact that I was kind of free from, I suppose, pigeonholing myself. Really, it's as I explained earlier, the thought of writing with a 4/4 beat every time I write a song is mind-numbing, and I just want to blow my brains out. To think that I'm going to be restricted in that way. I start the song, it has a birth, and as I start to work, the song grows, and I do what I call honouring the song. And I go where the song leads me, and I listen as much as possible to where it wants to take me, and work with it rather than trying to kind of take control of the whole process. Of course, I have to put chords together and ideas, but if I listen to a song, it usually informs me of where to go. Yeah.
There's a lot of organic tracks, really, on that album.
Yes. I mean, it was interesting. We used, I think it was a Caligas tank. Julie and we recorded it, and I slapped it, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds nice." And in the countryside, in the studio, and the only problem we had was the birds, and we detuned it and used it as a kick on retrospective. Nothing new about that process really, but it was just kind of, let's get back into this playfulness. Let's not kind of, let's have fun. It's a deep song, but let's have fun to make some sounds and see where it leads. And so that was the kind of start of the change, I think. Yeah.
We were also chatting on Facebook. I mentioned I wondered how close I got to understanding you and the album just by listening to the music. You said very, and I would explain those points.
Really, it was just the fact that you did notice, you kind of went with it, and at the end you made, I think, the statement about it was punky, it was this, it was kind of, it went across, as we mentioned before, the genres, but the fact that Old Skin came last, that maybe that was the point, that I was comfortable enough to do what I wanted to do rather than kind of stick with any kind of format or any genre. So yes, so that's how I think you really kind of connected it together, which was nice to see.
How have things developed for you musically since Grains and Grams?
Vastly, I think, because when I did Grains and Grams, I was a man alone, and I met Julio on tour with Lena, And when I did my first solo show, which I hadn't done for years, in Genoa, I was invited out to do a show, and we said, oh, let's maybe think about a project. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing my album, and of course I was going to be mixing it, producing the whole thing myself. And so he joined me for Grains and Grams, which was the first single. And when that was finished, he said, of course I want to do the rest of the album with you. And I was like, wow, God, that's a result, really. How lucky that is, because maybe now I can focus on being a singer vocally, and because really, I mean, the music was already done in the main, and so that was a huge difference. And now knowing, of course, that person is on board for the second album, when I did Old Skin, it made me think in a very different way. Whereas before, with Grains and Grams, it was like, how can I do this live? And if I'm going with a laptop, I have to keep it quite minimal. And but this time I thought, well, I'm going to make the album that I want to make, and then I'll work out how to do it live, and I'll face that when it comes to it. So it was a very different approach.
So what is it like to work with Lena Lovitch and her also working with you?
Fantastic really. She's a stellar human being, and I have a rule that I won't work with anybody that I don't like. I don't really care about history, names, people that way. And from the off, she was very gracious, very nice, very warm. And we only actually got together to do a one-off show, I think in 2012 at the Drop Dead Festival in Berlin, and we all had such a good time. She said, oh, why don't we all stay together? And here we are, getting into year 8 together. And I never thought that I would be. I don't think I've actually been in a band that long. And because we're a good community, we're a good family, and help each other a lot when it comes to the creative process. You know, that's just by talking to other people who have the same mindset, who want to relate their world or to themselves and work in isolation quite a lot. It's nice to sort of see how they work as well.
Because I remember you talking that she, in a theory, like Lena and others have just of recent years have sort of expanded your own mindset and ideas and thoughts.
Yes. Like in Scarecrow, I said nature doesn't care, and she just said, well, how do you know? And so I changed it to a question: does she care? Because I thought, well, actually, yeah, I don't know, you know. And she had a good point when I was playing at the demo. And so things like that, you know, it then makes me question everything that I'm actually looking at and what I'm saying and coming across and what is it I believe. So those things are so important, because now I feel like, oh yeah, that when I sing it feels right, and what seems to happen is when I'm vocalizing a song, if there's a point where I lose power or lose energy when I'm singing, I now know it's because the word doesn't feel right. And so then I look at the word. And I never had that before. And I think that really is being in the company of Lena and the band.
And that really means you're really in tune with music as well.
Yes.
You know, the whole process.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was Jude that encouraged me to sort of say it was okay to write a bad song. And it's like, wow, God, you know, I always put myself under so much pressure to do something really good, you know, and I never kind of thought of the concept of just, you know, although failure is an option always, which is a bit of a relief in my life, I never kind of let myself off with music. You know, there was still a bit of a stick to beat myself a little bit. And but that stick is smashed now.
It's gone.
Yes.
So what do you think about making videos for the album?
I love making videos. A lot of it is, I think we were talking about briefly before, is based on a woman that I saw that was photographing herself aging, or I think her sick husband. I can't remember which way around it was now. It's quite a while ago. And to document just how her body was changing, and I kind of had a difficulty at first to do videos because I thought, oh God, I'm an old bloke doing a video, and God, do I really want that? Do I want to actually look? And I thought, no, well, actually, maybe it's interesting to do that, to see myself as I am, and to gain actually acceptance to where I am in my life physically, how I look, and as a way to kind of become comfortable, actually. And because I kind of look at old photographs from when I was younger, when I was totally thinking, oh God, I don't want to be seen, and then I look and I go, actually, he was kind of okay, and maybe when I'm in another decade, I'll be looking back going, well, actually, he was okay, and so it's I had a difficulty when I was younger, and so I think doing the album called Old Skin as well, I think it's about facing that uncomfortability and saying, this is where I am, this is how I am, this is how I look, and I'm going to be here now and fully embrace that and fully accept that.
It's like an alignment of everything in your life.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
It's like everything's caught up with itself, and musically and your own personal challenges and looking at life. It's all just come together. It's like a combination of everything.
Yes, yeah. And maybe when I'm kind of gone, it's my daughters can see it, and and
no, it's definitely a legacy.
Yeah.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite video?
That's a difficult one, because I think what I find interesting is judgment. Actually, what I've just been carrying on now is judgment. When I predated all this stuff, and I did an EP, I did a song called A Boy Called George, and I've always hated these videos where you get this guy who's older, and there's the typical videos, and you get a woman in there who's younger, and blah blah blah, and a friend of mine produced it, and she said, oh, we should have a ballerina. And all of a sudden, there was this older man in the video with a younger ballerina, and I'm thinking, God, this is what I say I don't like, and here I am.
Complete cliche.
And really, it was my own judgment of other people, and life made me face that, and it made me far less judgmental.
So you've had kind of wave after wave of having your life thrown back in your face sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
So let's talk about the videos that you've made for Old Skin. Retrospective to start with. What was it like filming that particular video?
That was difficult, because it was suggested that in my mind I was going to sing, and it was suggested actually by Lena that maybe we could go with the just being and not singing, and that was kind of quite a terrifying moment, because I'm used to performing and playing up to the stage or the camera, and so that's kind of what I know, and the thought to doing something that I didn't know was quite challenging, and but then my brain switched from sort of, no, I'm going to sing, to actually let's do it somebody else's way, let's just see how that is, and see what's at the other end of it. And although I had many uncomfortable moments, it was great. It was great because I managed to kind of get over myself, and I think that's what most of what I do is about, getting over myself.
And you allowed other people to intervene and
absolutely
take over,
and trust,
and
learning trust that I don't always know best. Yeah.
And the sex shop video was totally different.
Very, very different. Yes, it was. Yes, and that was from meeting a couple of guys when I was on tour. I was having a coffee. I said, "Oh, so you know what I do? You just seen us on stage yesterday. What are you up to in your lives?" And they said, "Oh, we have a sex shop in Lille. They're two French guys, Sylvain and Manu." And I was like, "Wow, I don't have any friends with a sex shop. Can we be friends? Just being jokey." And they went, "Yeah, come and see us sometime." And of course I did. And I saw their shop, and they had the cruising downstairs, and there was people down there in the dark. Nobody touched me. I walked around, and men and women kind of in their lunch break from work, and I was like, wow, God, what do these people have for lunch? You know, what do they? Well, I know what they're having for lunch, but, but what do they have for dinner, more? and what do they watch on TV? And I got totally fascinated, and I was like, but what happens if it's not? You know, I mean, in England we have sex shops where you buy toys, but there is it's a cruising place downstairs with the toys upstairs. And I was like, yeah, and from being quite a funny thing, this is a community service. This is something that needs to exist because these people are expressing themselves in a way, and everyone's comfortable. Nobody would touch you if you didn't want to be. You know, it was a very respectful environment, and I thought, wow, there's more respect here than there is in a bloody church. You know.
It's often the way.
Yes.
Not that I know. I know which way. So, I mean, what actually came first? Was it seeing this shop that inspired you to make the song?
Yes.
Or
yes.
It was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I saw it at first, as I say, it was a bit of fun, but then I thought, well, actually. It was actually a couple of things. I was speaking to my youngest daughter, and she was like, she had this thing about sex, and I said, so when does sex stop? And she said, well, when you're 40. To which I kind of laughed, and that kind of played on my mind as well. And then quite a few things all stirred together. And with that in mind, I just thought, well, actually, I'm a lot older than 40, and I have desire, and that desire is part of me and vital actually, and I want to be okay with that. And maybe there's, you know, like when I was a punk and I was speaking to people who were my generation, maybe I can say, look, I'm 58 and I'm here. I am. You know, where are you? You know, it's still some form of rebellion. It's not a rebellious song in the sense, but it's just like, I'm okay with where I am. It's fine. And so there was a bit of frivolity in the chorus, but the verses are not at all. You know, it's more questioning. You know,
experiencing and seeing.
Yeah.
And actually understanding, as you said earlier, individuals that are frequenting these places to sort of get through their life or support their life.
Yeah, I'm proud of my sensual life, you know, and I'm not going to sort of just put it down, you know, and because I think that's a very vital point, and I think society wants you to kind of give up on that. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but that's how it feels sometimes.
But and I also understand that you use, you know, members, staff members, customers for the video.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. I wanted real people in the video. Yes, I didn't want to have the kind of the sort of types. Oh yeah, they look good on camera. It's just real people, and I think that happened. And in fact, with the album, the shop gave me free cruising passes for everybody who buys a CD.
Unbelievable.
If they're in Lille. But that in itself is worth €30.
Oh, well.
Would you like one, John?
This isn't going in an interview. Or maybe. and finally, of course, you've got your Janet and John video, and I gather that was shot in Greenwich.
Yes. That was actually quite interesting, because it was only afterwards I realised that, oh wow, you know, it is about time, how much time we have before the clock stops, and we did it in Greenwich. It's like I didn't actually plan that, and the song was very much it's just descriptive, really, just about the Janet and John books as I grew up, and I couldn't relate to them. I just couldn't relate to that life, or the picket fence, or the perfect house and the perfect life, and as I've kind of grown up, I've seen everyone going for this point, and always wishing that, oh, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, done this and done that, and they've always played it safe and stuff, and all of a sudden it's too late for me, and boom, and I think, wow, that's not where I want to be. That's not making a judgment about that life. It's just saying that that's not for me. That's what that's about. But yeah, it was quite uncanny that afterwards, just like, wow, we did it there. A bit like Alien from the first album. That was when I was younger. In the song, you know, I moved to Manchester, and I was an alien in a place, moving from London to a very small place. And when I did the video, I did it in a humorous way, and it was only after I realised, well, actually, that's how I used to cope. I became the comedian, I became the joker, and yeah, I dealt with that in that way, and it wasn't planned. And so it's interesting for me to look at those things.
Yeah. And of course, the tunnel was completely empty, or it appears
Yes,
to be empty.
mostly, yes. I mean, we just went from one end to the other, and if a lift came down and people came past, some people stopped. And I think there's one shot in there where a bike kind of shoots past, but mainly, yes, if you kind of time it right, and nobody stopped us at all. Everyone was quite happy we were doing it, including the wardens.
Do you have a favourite track on the album?
At the moment, it changes all the time, and it goes from Girl on the Screen to The Other Side, and at the moment it's The Other Side. I like that because it's very straight ahead, it's very lyric driven, it's I suppose storytelling in some ways, and I kind of like the idea of with The Other Side, it's not just about losing someone in death. It's that sometimes we can be in a circumstance in a relationship and we can be totally with someone and something just breaks and they're the other side of the line, and you could look at the person and think, well, you know, I love you, but I can't
Convey that.
I can't be with you. Yeah. There's something is kind of broken, and so people love each other and they break up. Or just the thought of somebody jumping in the car, going to work and never coming home again, you know, which is worse. Somebody still being alive and you still want them more. So I just like that sort of 1 minute we're here, 1 minute we're gone, 1 minute we're in love, and just something breaks and we're looking at each other with love, but we just cannot be together and exist in the same space, and it can be so quick.
And you're talking about the drums in that particular track as well.
Yes, it was I've tried about 5 different forms of the song, and in the end, the one that worked was just getting a straight head drum machine. And I kind of thought, okay, I work very visually, so I thought, okay, how does this work? So I thought, if I was on stage and I heard this relentless drum beat with a big guitar, you know, just playing all of the music, just playing a big riff and a vocal, something very, very raw. That's how I would see it on stage. How do I portray that into the song? So it just meant it had to just keep driving forward in a very, very simplistic way. And when I'd kind of done the basic track, Stan Greenwood from Skeletal Family came to stay because we were going to attempt to write some songs together. He said, "Oh, well, you know, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just doing the new album." He said, "Well, maybe I can do some stuff on that so we can get to kind of know each other." And he kind of played some power chords and some arpeggios and put some twisted sort of guitars at the end. And I thought, wow, I didn't see that one coming, but it fit perfectly, and that wasn't the plan. And I think that, you know, there are the times when I can think, well, okay, that wasn't how I imagined it, but actually that track can't live without it now, and that's the way that's what the song wanted, and that's what the song got. Even the sense of kind of denial that you can have with death, and at the end all the metal gets twisted and the reality comes in that actually this person is gone, and that whole mental construct, and it's just, wow, that just, you know, Stan got it, he nailed it, you know.
It's really interesting, isn't it, how these concepts have just been taken over and become a life of their own.
Yes, and I think that's about trust. It's about kind of letting people express themselves. Like, you know, back to Janet and John, when Danny Valentine did the guitars on it, and he did the like a kind of bouzouki kind of guitar in the middle section. I was like, wow, what is that? You know, that's from nowhere, but it just sits perfectly. with the whole thing and the mood. It's just, you can't make that up. It fits right, and well, for me, it's unbelievable that somebody can kind of get under the skin, literally, of what you're doing, and it's like, thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for understanding that moment and that point, and really understanding what's going on, you know, because it's and to that end, I've been blessed.
And really speaking, you're driving home these images in your mind now to others.
Yes,
and
yes.
spreading this vision,
Yes,
and understanding, and your ideas of conceivements of life, and hopefully going to connect with other people.
Yes. I mean, I hope so. It's a note to self many times, you know, because it's I feel as an individual, I learn something and I forget something, then the same thing happens again. I go, oh yeah, I did learn this. Maybe I didn't learn it enough, and kind of, I think that's how the songs are. And I, you know, if there's people out there and they kind of connect to that's great, you know.
So I noticed that you set up a Patreon account. Can you let people know what it is about and how they can join?
Yes, you can just go to Patreon, Morgan King. I think it's patreon.com/Morgan King, if I'm doing that kind of thing here. And you'll find me there to subscribe. I just love the idea of it. At first I was a little bit, it was actually suggested by a friend, and I was like, and I looked at different ways, different platforms, pledges, and I thought, well, if I pledge, then I have to keep pledging. And I like the idea that somebody could like sort of just subscribe to me for a little bit or more as they wish, or if a new project's coming up, they can say, well, actually, I can have this. And I started to think, well, actually, I could do more music. It facilitates me, because if people are supporting me in that way, I could then ask an audience, so what 4 songs would you like on acoustic? You know, and I could knock that up, and then I think, well, actually that's great, because that's a real challenge for me, you know, and then as soon as I was doing that, I thought, well, actually this making me more creative, just thinking about Patreon in that sense, because I'm really kind of connecting with people, you know, and that's what it's all about, really.
So you're also hoping perhaps it's more of an interactive environment?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You want to connect more with people listening to your music, and
yes,
even have their input.
Yes, I do all the time. If somebody buys an album and anything like that, I speak to them directly if I can. Sometimes I send an email and say, "Did you want it signed?" And they kind of shyly write back a week, and I have to sometimes write again and say, "Do you want it signed before I send it?" And they, "Oh yes, please." And so, you know, I want to be sort of as much as possible kind of on the ball to respond to people who are kind of supporting my music. Yeah.
Do you think you'd get to a level where you actually, because you're changing in some, well, in a lot of ways here, do you think you'd find that you'd even allow some of these people to give you ideas?
Yes, I already put those things out there. I did ask several people, you know, how they felt as music buyers. People who bought my album and said, you know, if I launched on this, how do you see, as a person who's a music fan, not just of me, of many artists, a music lover, how would you like to connect? And I did ask, and quite a few came back and said, you know, the idea of Patreon, something like, well, we can have a direct access and get stuff that other people are not getting. They were sort of very positive, said, well, actually, I've kind of got a budget for that, for sure. And I was actually quite surprised, because I think, you know, why not ask? You know, I don't want to be this kind of person who was sitting on his pride and on his, you know, that's not what it's about. It's about making music and speaking honestly to people, and asking you advice. You know, how do you feel about it? What do you think? Is it a shitty idea? Is it a bad idea? You know, and just seeing how it comes across. You know, rather than sort of thinking and making a judgment. You know, so we're back to the judgment again. Rather than judge something, actually experience it and see what it's like. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. Failure is an option.
Mm-hmm. And what about if they ask for one of them cards?
I'm sorry?
What about if they ask? What about if they ask for one of them cards?
If they ask for a free cruising card, I think if they ask the question, it'll probably be a positive yes.
So Before we wrap this interview up, is there anything else you would like to add?
I think I would like to say thank you for those who have supported me so far, because it matters. Because sometimes it's nice to know that although I write as a reflection of my life, to connect with people is a very nice thing, and it kind of helps sometimes in those days when you're lacking a little bit of courage to carry on. You remember that person who said this, or thank you, or nice. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a pool to draw upon that is more than myself.
So Old Skin really is sort of it's brought itself around, hasn't it? It's kind of like it's a project that's kind of become a learning for yourself and an understanding of yourself.
Yes.
And then it's just transformed to becoming a beast of its own. That's kind of I don't know, a weird evolvement.
Yeah, I think so. It's if I listen to a lot of music, for instance, it's going back to the genre-based thing. It's an individual is not one colour, not one mood, and so if I hear music which has a mood and it stays with the mood, I think, well, this too shall pass. So how could we be in one frame? And so my mood changes all the time, and I want my music to reflect my ups, my downs, my in-betweens, my indifference, all of those things, because otherwise it doesn't feel correct to me to be in one space, because that's not how I am, for sure.
And you're taking people on this journey now.
If they want to join, yes.
Well, I think if they're listening to the album, they really get it. I think they will.
Yes. I mean, I've kind of in the past I've confused some circumstances or some people or situations. I've even asked some old friends, if you didn't know me from what I was doing now, how would you feel? And they just said, well, I would be very cagey to how I approached you. And I was like, really? And I still don't understand that. So I do kind of get that nowadays that all the standardised testing and at schools and stuff, that people want to put something into a box to say this is what it is, and now I know what it is, I can say whether it's better or worse than something else. They need to categorise, and I think that's it's not the place where I necessarily want to be.
No, but I think you've reached an acceptance of where you are and who you are. It's just a complete understanding of yourself, and it's like if people approach you, you are, you're genuine. You are yourself. And
yes. Yeah.
I think this is, we touched on this earlier. People aren't kind of connecting with that today. They're kind of feeling, as you say, that they have to be something else. Yes. Other than themselves.
Yes, yeah, and that's growing up doing music in Manchester. Actually, I grew up in London until I was 12, but then I moved there, and when I was doing music at sort of 17, 18, left my job actually 40 years ago. This year, if you sounded like Magazine, or if you sounded like a certain ratio or Joy Division, or were in the same building, you kind of thought, well, that's their territory. We need to find our own space. But it does seem now it's like, well, I want to kind of fit in with everything, and I'm not saying that I'm not wanting to fit in with stuff. I don't actually think about it. I just do what I do, and make music, and people can decide how they feel about it. But intrinsically, I have happiness about what I do, and I release it, and hopefully that kind of translates. It doesn't matter if it's a happy song or a sad song. It's just that I'm actually happy to have expressed it, and so yeah. Apart from that, I've kind of, once it's gone, it's not my responsibility.
Well, it was wonderful to review the album. I really enjoyed it. As
Thank
I said,
you.
I do find it a genreless album. I do encourage other people to listen to it and listen to it more than once, because I think that's another thing with music today. I don't think people spend enough time actually listening, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel that with the likes of Spotify, places like this, people will perhaps tune in for 10 seconds, may dislike it because they haven't given it enough time to grow or evolve, and therefore just knock it aside. There is a lot of music out there today, and it doesn't always give a chance to a new album at all. And I'm not sure if people are actually listening to albums in the construction of an album even.
Probably not. No. I mean, when I did Grains and Grams, I made it album only for download, and so whether or not I kind of made a mistake with that one, the new album I'm not releasing digital till next year because I wanted to focus on the physical, recording this time. But I'm going to make that available as a single download because I have no control over what Spotify does or what order they play the album in, so there's no point even engaging. But if they get the album, that's the way it was constructed by the artist, so they know how the artist feels. But in this case, it was actually constructed by Julio, my co-producer, because I kind of had lost where I was with the structure, so I said, please just put it the way that you see it, and I'll go with whatever you feel. And I think he got the order right.
Yeah, no, I firmly believe so.
Yeah.
So I think we have to thank Maria for putting us in contact.
Thank you very much, Marie. Yes.
But she didn't know that we knew each other already.
No, that was a surprise.
But no, it's been really nice to meet up with you again and chat and do philosophy like we usually do.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. So thank you very much for your time, Morgan.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Cheers.